The first time I saw Brenda Havston waddling across the cul-de-sac in that sun hat big enough to double as a satellite dish, clutching her clipboard like it was a badge, I just knew my piece was over. "We need to talk about that ATV," she said, squinting at me as if I'd just run over her begonias. "Noise violation. Not to mention Article 7, Section 12, motorized vehicles strictly prohibited." Yeah, this was how I started my one real day off, coffee barely cooled, leaning against my garage begging, "Really, Brenda, it's not even 8. Can we not?" But she just puckered up like she'd bitten a lemon and declared, "The HOA doesn't take days off, Mr. Lawley." See, I'd read the bylaws cover to cover when I bought this place, not because I'm some stickler, but because I've been burned before. The trail in question was that old gravel strip behind my yard, winding toward the lake, public land county owned, though Brenda and her little council had been scheming to claim it for years, always sniffing for more control. "I'm not on HOA property," I pointed out, thumbing toward the trail. "Checked with the county. Twice." Brenda's eyes narrowed, her voice going sharp. "It's disruptive. Residents have complained." But let's be real, nobody had. My neighbors either waved as I rattled past or asked for a ride. Brenda just didn't like what she couldn't control. A couple days later, the violation notice landed in my mailbox. Unauthorized use of motor vehicle on common area. $300 plus threats of further action. I laughed out loud. Then I walked over to Joe's place. Joe, retired land surveyor, keeper of every map. This side of the century glanced at my letter and snorted. "She finally pulled the trigger, huh?" He handed me a crumpled topo map, finger tracing the boundary. "Trails not HOA. It's private trust dormant for years." That got me thinking. One late-night internet rabbit hole later, I discovered the trust had dissolved 2 years ago, and the land was up for quiet auction. No one seemed to notice except me. 6 weeks later, Brenda called an emergency HOA meeting. I showed up with my ATV keys in one hand and a brand new county deed in the other. Brenda was already at the front, fuming, calling for escalated enforcement and legal action. I waited for the drama, then calmly dropped my deed on the table. As of last week, I owned the trail from my yard all the way to the lake. Dead silence. Brenda's mouth opened, then snapped shut. I told them, "Any attempt to find me now is harassment." "My lawyer agrees." Joe, grinning in the back, let out a whistle. Brenda sat down, white as a sheet. Next morning, every mailbox had a community safety alert: trespassing, reckless driving, endangerment, all without names, but let's be honest, it was aimed square at me. Brenda wasn't giving up, she was doubling down. Joe wandered over, eyeing the flyer. "Queen's making her next move." I held up the paper. "She's printing lies now. Wonder what happens when it backfires." Joe said, "You better start documenting everything. She keeps this up, she'll cross the line." I'd already installed security cameras. If Brenda set one toe on my land, I'd have it on tape. Still, I checked with the county records. Evan, the clerk, barely glanced up as he pulled my file. "Still registered to you. No challenges. Want me to flag it?" I nodded. HOA's been sniffing around. I wouldn't put anything past them. He agreed to alert me if anything changed. Didn't take long for Brenda to try a new angle. I got a call from my insurance. We received a report of multiple safety violations. Unregistered vehicles, hazardous terrain. Anonymous tip, of course. Later that week, a clipboard-wielding inspector marched around my property, took photos, then emailed me that afternoon. No violations. Case closed. But Brenda wasn't done. Next, a shiny new private HOA property sign appeared on my trail staked right into the gravel. I snapped a photo and called the sheriff. Deputy Richter showed up, big guy, calm, not here for drama. I handed him my deed, pointed out the sign. He said, "That's a problem." After checking the fresh dirt, he told me to yank it, then took photos for the report. If she tries again, we can cite her. By the time I tossed the sign, Brenda was watching from her yard, arms folded, silent. I just smiled and went further. I called up Lyall, a landscaping buddy, and asked for a full trail upgrade. Make it so good even Brenda can't complain. 3 days later, the path looked better than half the subdivision sidewalks. But then it got nasty. My security cam buzzed at midnight, a shadowy figure, flashlight in hand, creeping along the trail. Sparks flew. Someone was digging up gravel, scattering nails. I called the sheriff. They showed up quick, found pried up borders and nails meant to flatten tires or worse. That's criminal mischief, Richter said, bagging the evidence. The next day, the sheriff's office called. We matched the figure in your video. She's been warned for trespassing before. We're sending an officer. Brenda got a visit. Half the neighborhood saw the cruiser in her drive. Afterward, messages rolled in. This time, not threats, but questions. Did she really forge signs? Try to damage your property? Is it true you bought the trail? The story spread on its own. Within a week, a petition started, not for my removal, but hers. The old HOA president quietly resigned, citing health reasons. Maya, a sharp ex-paralegal and the opposite of Brenda in every way, ran for the seat and won by a landslide. Brenda vanished. Her flyers disappeared. The trail stayed open, wider and smoother than ever. A week later, in the cold rain, I organized all my paperwork just in case. That's when I spotted something weird, a thin strip of land near Brenda's fence, still listed as under HOA easement, not ownership, and now blocked by a brand new iron gate, no permit filed. County clerk confirmed it, illegal obstruction on public land. I took the permit record straight to Maya, who found a $5,000 security access charge in the HOA books, no vendor, no invoice. That's embezzlement, misuse of funds, unauthorized construction, she said. That night, bolt cutters in hand, I waited until dusk and cut the padlock. Brenda caught me in the act, yelling across the yard. I waved the county map. Your gate's illegal. I'm restoring public access. She just stood there, rain pouring, nothing left to say. At the emergency board meeting, Maya laid out the evidence: unauthorized spending, forged signatures, funds, diverted to a shell company called Havston Property Services. The new board voted to suspend everyone named, including Brenda. She stood chair clattering, yelling about political stunts and protecting the community, but nobody bit. Weeks later, the county pressed charges: fraud, falsifying records, obstruction. Brenda was led out in cuffs before sunrise. The trail stayed open, and Maya pushed through new rules, quarterly audits, 3-person financial committees, transparency. I kept up the trail, adding a solar lamp near the lake, watched neighbors reclaim it, kids biking, folks walking dogs, old arguments dissolving into laughter. One morning, as I was building a bench, Greg Vance, former city planner, once run off by Brenda, showed up. Heard what you did. Never thought anyone'd buy the trail. He handed me a manila envelope, proof that right before the election, Brenda and an ally filed to reclassify the trail as abandoned using forged statements. I called Maya, and by the next day we were in the county office with a DA. This time it wasn't just misuse of funds. They'd tried to commit zoning fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to devalue property. 3 weeks later, Brenda was arrested, again indicted on 6 counts, her ally too. At the next community meeting, Maya announced new bylaws, checks and balances. No celebration, just relief, closure. Joe came up sipping coffee, nodding at the trail. Funny how a patch of gravel became the hill they died on. I looked at the sun shining through the trees, felt the crunch of stones beneath my boots. The neighborhood finally belonged to the people, not the petty tyrants. 2 months passed. The trail saw more use than ever. Kids with chalk, families with picnic chairs, the bitterness Brenda sowed withering as neighbors found their way back to each other. By summer, the trail was a landmark mural at the head, tangled thorns giving way to sunrise. Maya added a plaque. Community is not something you control, it's something you earn. These days, when strangers ask who owns the trail, I just smile and say, it belongs to everyone now. You know what I mean? That's how it was always supposed to be. So what do you think? Is there ever a right side in a fight like this? Or is it just about who finally stands up and says, enough? Drop your thoughts below. Share your own battle stories. And let's hear what justice looks like where you live.